Hello. So, I am going to be talking about the spirit of death and something that I just kind of connected the dots over something from my past and was like, whoa, that finally makes sense now. After I had made my last video, and it was crazy because I did talk about like the spirit of death in that video, and I was just praying and I started that video, so I don't even know what I was going to talk about. So it was just kind of weird because God always brings his confirmation when he's behind something. When I finished that, my parents were watching a documentary on the tsunami that happened in 2004 that hit Indonesia, and that's where I grew up. Because my parents were already in Indonesia, but they moved to Aceh, where it hit the worst, for disaster relief, and that's where I was for my childhood. So I, as a 5-year-old, show up in a place that just literally, it was hundreds of thousands, of people dead. I wasn't there to see all the bodies, but my dad was. It was a catastrophe. And so even though I didn't go through that, I didn't lose family or anything like that. But I latched on to a lot of that fear and a lot of that that hopelessness, like that death feeling. And I didn't realize how that was connected. Because when I started listening to my parents, when they were watching the documentary, I was getting all those feelings back. I'm like, wow, that feels like me as a kid. It's like, oh my gosh, but I didn't go through that. I got to see the aftermath, and I got to be there to deal with all the aftershocks. But I didn't go through all that, wherever you go, there is a weight to places that you go to. There's different strongholds in different places, and the enemy really messed with me. And so from when we moved there, I got this terrible phobia of the wind. And you think about it, it's just the power of nature that terrified me. That it was a power of nature. Rain, if it rained really hard, our roof was made out of tin, and I literally would die. I was so scared. I had to hide in this big wardrobe that we had and just listen to worship music. That's what I did as a kid, and it got very, very bad. I would have terrible panic attacks, screaming, because I really thought, it was just the worst feeling. And then when I was a little bit older, I remember there was a really big earthquake, and it had been a while since we had a really big one, and I literally got traumatized from that. I'm like, what the heck? I just remember the very next day, because all that fear lets the enemy, it's like I said, it's not taking dominion, and so just things latch onto you. And I remember lying in bed and thinking, my dad could be dead, my sister could be dead, my mom could be dead, like they could die. But it wasn't as if it was like it could be, it was like it had happened. Like I was feeling all that pain, like they had all died, and I couldn't make sense of that. But the feeling was just this worst hopelessness I ever felt. Like it was so heavy. And I remembered when we were because we knew that usually after a big earthquake you get more, and so we all stayed in one room and watched a movie just in case, so that we would all, if we felt an earthquake, we'd all run outside. And I remember we were watching Happy Feet, and for the longest time I could never watch that movie because it made me sick to my stomach, because the stress and the fear that I was dealing with that time was just totally associated with that movie. And that's just hilarious because it's a kid's movie. And it's literally called Happy Feet. But yeah, I carried a lot of that, and it was tormenting my mind. And now that I'm free from it, I didn't realize just how heavy that was. Just how heavy that was. And really, I just needed to come out of agreement with it. And that is by trusting in the Lord and having Him take it away, and not bowing down to the lies. And so yeah, even as a little kid, and that when I was going through deliverance, which, I mean, we're always needing to be delivered. We always need the Lord, but that was one of the first things that I remember was a spirit of death, and I just was so confused. I was like so confused. I'm like, what? It could not make sense of that, and now I understand. Because when I was hearing like people tell their stories of the tsunami and stuff, it was like, I literally was like, it felt like I was there, but I wasn't there. But I understood what they were feeling, like, completely. And that's just wild. So, and that's another thing, is when you're growing in your faith, God will have you face different giants. So you have that compassion.